What's up, y'all? Welcome back to a brand new video. In this one, I'm going to be going through the top 10 favorite movies of one of my best friends, my oldest friend, Mr. Dalin Nguyen. Dalin has a good list he sent me here. This is part of a series. This is episode 14 of me going through different people in my lives. Movies right now, I'm going through, the squad. I'm going through their movies, my boys, and rating their movies on a scale of 1 to 10 for a total out of 100. Now, Dalin, there are very few people in my life that I have known as long as Dalin, especially most of them are family. Me and Dalin, we've been homies since the Bush administration, which when you're only 23, that is a very long time. I think we've been friends since first grade, so like 17 years, I think. 17 years? Yeah. Our friendship can see a rated R movie. So, yeah, me and Dalin go back. Dalin's one of those people, always been a consistent person in my life, a constant, one of my best friends. Love that guy to death. And right now we're going to go through his top 10 favorite movies. He did send me some honorable mentions, so let's honorably mention those real quick. First, we have Rocky IV, which was on my brother-in-law Grant's list. That's my personal favorite of the Rocky movies. It's Dalin's second favorite because he has one of the other Rocky movies on his top 10. We have The Hangover, The Blind Side, Good Will Hunting, which is one of my favorite movies of all time, so I love that pick, and The Revenant. So those are Dalin's honorable mentions. Now we're just going to get into the top 10 here. First off, we have La La Land, which is a repeat. This is the third time it's appeared in this series. 3 out of 14 episodes it's been on. It was on my sister-in-law Olivia's list, and it was on my good friend Mr. Hayden Hasty's list. And so Dalin and Hayden are roommates, so I like to imagine that every night they cuddle up on their couch and watch La La Land together. And I imagine that's probably exactly what it's like in their apartment. So yeah. No, but La La Land just oozes charisma from both Emma Stone and, of course, Mr. Ryan Gosling. To me, Ryan Gosling is really what makes this movie for me personally, just because I'm such a big fan of his, and I think he's so great. The songs, especially City of Stars, are so catchy. Every time after I watch this movie, I always have it stuck in my head, that song specifically, City of Stars, for a month, 2 months, whatever. Like when I watched this movie, like the next 2 weeks, I was whistling City of Stars constantly. My son Ryder, he loved listening to me whistle that song. And so, yeah. The dance choreography is great. It's extremely well done. The chemistry between the two leads is fantastic. And I also love the change of pace near the end of how it kind of breaks the mold, the norm for a romance movie, and they don't end up together, right? That's I can respect that. La La Land is an 8 out of 10. Next up, we have Shutter Island, which is another repeat. It was on my father-in-law J.J. Musgrove's list, and Shutter Island is one of Scorsese's finest films, in my opinion. Leonardo DiCaprio plays his part so well. No duh, it's Leonardo DiCaprio. Of course, he's going to play his part well. The twist, to me, is one of the best in cinema. The supporting cast is great. Mark Ruffalo, Ben Kingsley, Max von Sydow, etc. Michelle Williams. But Leonardo DiCaprio is just obviously the standout here, as he is in pretty much every movie that he stars in. So, yeah. I think this movie is one of those ones that's better after your first viewing. I think this was my third time watching it, and I think it just gets better every time because and you get this context of what's going on. So I think that helps a lot. 9 out of 10. Next up, we have Interstellar, which if you've been watching my videos recently, one, I love talking about Interstellar, but also this has been talked about in 2 of my last 3 videos prior to this because it was on Edmund's list, it was on Hayden's list, and now it's on Dalin's list, and it's on my list as well. So they get it, right? I could never tire of talking about Interstellar. I could talk about it in every video. I think it's one of the greatest movies to ever come to screen. Every time I talk about it, it makes me love it more. Every time I think about it, it makes me love it more. And it's just a beautifully, beautifully stunning film. I say this almost every time, but I think it's worth mentioning. I think the only movies that I've seen that are more visually stunning than Interstellar are the 2 Avatar films. So they're a beautiful movie. It's a beautiful movie. it's one of my favorite performances ever by Matthew McConaughey as Cooper. It's just, especially now being, how much movies change after you are a dad. Now that I'm a dad, like watching it, it's just like, oh my gosh, it hurts even more. I love anything with Timothée Chalamet, even though he's very minor in this role. I love anything with him in it. I love Interstellar, and hopefully it's on someone else's list because I am still trying to convince Destiny to watch it with me, and I will not stop until she does. 10 out of 10 for Interstellar, obviously. Next up, we have Rocky 3. So this is the third Rocky movie to appear on one of these lists. Rocky has made an appearance. Rocky 4, which like I said is my favorite, has made an appearance. And it was one of Dalin's honorable mentions. But I think 3 is better than 1, but not as good as 4. Let me say it's not as good. I don't enjoy it as much as 4. I think 1 is the best movie, but it's not my favorite. I think starting really early on with a montage, go right into it. That's great. It's really fun. And no movie does a montage like a Rocky movie. They just know how to do it. The training montage, the fighting, whatever montage they're doing. Obviously, it's usually a training montage, but nobody does it like them. I also love that training montage kind of towards the middle / end of the movie where they're racing on the beach and the race with Apollo. Seeing Apollo's role in this movie, becoming Rocky's mentor is great. The freeze frame at the end of this movie is also, oh my gosh, just a fantastic way to finish the film, to show like that Rocky and Apollo, they still kind of have their quarrel with one another a little bit. They still want to know who's the better fighter, but we don't need to know who it is. We're not going to see, right? Even in Rocky 4, I think it starts with that freeze frame, but we still don't see who wins the fight, and I think it should be that way. I also don't know if there has ever been a better song made for a movie, a soundtrack song made for a movie, than Eye of the Tiger. Genuinely. It fits the movie so well. It's such a good, catchy song. Yeah. I'm going to give Rocky 3 an 8 out of 10 there. Alrighty. Moving on to Lone Survivor, which is just a very hard-hitting film. It's extremely well made. I think this is Mark Wahlberg's best performance that I personally have watched. I think he has one Oscar nomination, and it's for what's it called? The Departed. But I think Lone Survivor is definitely his best performance. Emile Hirsch, Taylor Kitsch, Ben Foster, his three. I can't think of the word. The three guys that are going with him, they all also give great supporting performances and supporting roles. I think this movie is a very, very good tribute to all those that were lost in this real life event. It also is just incredibly sad from the beginning because, looking at the title, you see the poster, you see it's Mark Wahlberg, you know exactly how the movie's going to go. And then it goes exactly that way, and it's just very sad. But it's a good movie, 8 out of 10. Next up, we have Secondhand Lions, which is definitely one of the more random movies to appear on one of these lists, but it's a very good family movie. I don't know if that's not really a genre of movie, but there are those movies that are a family movie, and to me, this is one of those. I remember seeing this as a kid, but I didn't really remember what it was about. I remember that it was... I was going to say Macaulay Culkin, Haley Joel Osment, going with two old men, and there was a lion, and that's really all I remembered. But Robert Duvall and Michael Caine are great in this film. I was so taken aback watching it by all the places the story went because I just did not remember that it did all those things. I really love Michael Caine's little accent that he uses, but it still sounds exactly like Michael Caine. Like it's you can tell it's his voice, but he's like, it's not his normal voice. He has this little accent, but it's just still so Michael Caine. I think that's hilarious. It reminds me of a kid's storybook that I would read to my son because it's just like all over the place. It's so outlandish and silly. And I think Haley Joel Osment is like an all-time great child actor, and I think he's very great in this movie. 7 out of 10. Inception. I'm going to say this. This is not my favorite Christopher Nolan movie. It's not even in the top 3. but it's still a fantastic film. And to me, when I think of Christopher Nolan, I think of Inception. I know you just heard me talking about how much I love Interstellar. I think The Dark Knight is one of the greatest films of all time. I think Oppenheimer is one of the greatest films of all time, on and on and on. But when I think of Christopher Nolan, I think of Inception. To me, that's the most Christopher Nolan of all movies. I always think of that. There's a drawing you can find of him like breaking down like the layers of the dreams throughout the movie. It's just fantastic. Leonardo DiCaprio is Leonardo DiCaprio, which is perfect. The rest of the supporting cast is great. I think Cillian Murphy plays his role really well. He's not an underrated actor anymore because of Oppenheimer. But prior to Oppenheimer, he's such an underrated actor, even by me. I'll admit that. Even by me, he was. And just everyone in this movie is so good. Joseph Gordon-Levitt, Elliot Page, Tom Hardy. I say this every time I talk about Tom Hardy. I have no idea what his voice actually sounds like. No clue. This is such a complex movie. It makes my head hurt when I watch it, but I think I maybe finally get it. I don't get it. I'm lying to you. 9 out of 10. The Curious Case of Benjamin Button. So, I really like this movie. I think it's very underrated. I think it's probably the second best performance of Brad Pitt's career that I personally have watched, behind Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, which is one of my favorite movies. The special effects, the makeup that they use to de-age Brad Pitt, age him up, it's fantastic. They're really, really good. This is such a tragic film to me. The whole thing just made me so sad watching it, seeing this, and it's just such a sad movie. That's not a bad thing, though. It's not. I don't mean that in a negative way. It's so sad. 8 out of 10. That's really all I can say about The Curious Case of Benjamin Button. Forrest Gump. If you know me, you know that I think this is the greatest movie ever made. It is my second favorite movie ever, behind Avengers Endgame. I think Tom Hanks gave not only the best acting performance of his career, but I think the best acting performance, because the best acting performance of Tom Hanks' career, which is like the best acting career of them all, well, one of them for sure. This movie always hits me right in the feels. It makes me laugh every time. I never get tired of it. It's such an epic story. It hits on so many key things, topics, events. I just love Forrest Gump. I love it. 10 out of 10. Now, finally, Top Gun Maverick. The reason I'm putting this in the last spot here is so I usually reserve this for what I dub my surprise of the list, which is just a movie that maybe I didn't see going into it, or I had seen a long time ago, and it just surpasses my expectations. This movie is no surprise to me. I went and saw it in theaters. I knew how good it was going to be when it was released. I saw it, right, like I said, but I want to spend more time talking about it, so I put it here in the last spot. Legacy sequels are something that I could make a whole YouTube video just talking about, right? They are a really interesting concept. Sometimes they hit really well, sometimes they miss. Top Gun Maverick is the peak of legacy sequels. There are none better. None better. I have some that I like more, some whatever, but there are none better than Top Gun Maverick. Sorry. And I think that trend is mostly sparked by and is going to continue because of the success of Top Gun Maverick. I really enjoy the first Top Gun movie. I think I've reviewed it for this series on JJ's list. I think I gave it a 9 out of 10 or a 9.5 maybe. I think it was a 9. But I think this one is significantly better both in quality and my own personal enjoyment. I think that they made so many smart choices. There's a fly in here. So many smart choices, so many wise choices in the making of this film, in the storytelling of this film. Having Maverick not be this admiral that's top of the Navy was such a good idea because it just doesn't make sense for his character. He wouldn't have gotten there, right? And it shows you how flawed he is, which makes him so much better as a protagonist. That's what makes him such a good protagonist, is how flawed he is and almost relatable. Obviously, for me, I wouldn't say he's relatable because I'm not that cool, but just because he's a flawed person, he makes mistakes. And showing how he's this father figure to Rooster is really emotional, especially because he's kind of a failed father figure. Rooster doesn't like him, right? If they came in with this great chemistry right off the bat and they loved each other and they were the best of friends, that would be different than he comes in and Rooster doesn't like him and he's kind of failed as his father figure, right? That's such a great choice. Somehow this movie takes the song Great Balls of Fire and makes it kind of sad, right? Yeah, so it does that. I think it did incredible justice to Val Kilmer and his character by allowing him to reprise his role despite his health condition, despite whatever else is going on with him. They allowed him to reprise his role. He played exactly the part that he should have. He did so well. And then they sent the character off gracefully and beautifully. I want to shout out Lewis Pullman as Nepo Baby, Lewis Pullman as Bob, because that bit is absolutely hilarious. He's going to be in the new Thunderbolts movie. He's playing almost like the MCU's version of Superman, almost Century. And so I'm very excited about that. But I think that is just hilarious. And I want to touch on the star-making power of this movie, right? When this movie came out, it was kind of the summer of Miles Teller. You see I'm rocking my mustache, trying to be like Miles Teller. I think he's great. But he's not even the main star that came out of this movie, and you know who I'm about to talk about. If you would have told me the trajectory that Hangman, Mr. Glenn Powell, was going to go on after this movie, I would not have believed you. That dude is just so awesome, though, in everything he's in. And you know what else is awesome is this movie that I've just spent 3 minutes talking about. 10 out of 10 for Top Gun Maverick, which brings Dalin's total to 87 out of 100. Which solidifies him in the 3rd overall spot. We have Grant with a 90, my dad, Mr. Scott Wilson, with an 88.5, and then we have Dalin with an 87 out of 100, which puts him in the lead over all the rest of our friends. So, guys, we already knew this, but Dalin is superior to all of you guys, so I don't know what to tell you. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you, Dalin, for putting this list together. I'm literally about to record the next episode right now, which is Mr. Marley Scott, because I have all his movies done as well, and I've just been waiting for the time that I had to record these videos, and I'm finally able to do it. So I'm going to record Marley's now, so that video will be coming out very soon. I'm currently watching, kind of in tandem, 2 lists. Everyone's favorite power couple, the Majors, Kyle and Amelia, Dusty and I's best couple friends. I'm doing theirs right now, so those will be coming out eventually too. But stay tuned for Marley's video. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you again, Dalin, for putting together this list. Peace.